one team that doesn't seem to have an issue every time a goalie goes down, they're on their fourth and fifth goalies already, is the Vegas Knights, the Golden Knights. And they're going to be off to the finals and facing off against the Panthers. So Vegas right now is up 3-0. Dallas ain't come back. Sorry, Dallas. And Panthers just steamrolling. Look at the contrast here. You got Bobrovsky. Everybody wrote him off as dead. Any team could have acquired him at any point if they just would have taken on the salary, right? Florida just kept him around basically because they paid him such crazy money. He has become now the modern day Jordan Binnington as far as in the playoffs go. It goes to show you a hot goalie and it is over. But Vegas goes by the philosophy I could put anybody in that. Aiden Hill's got a 930 save percentage. So what the heck? How did these teams get here? Why is it that Bobrovsky, is a stud and Vegas can go and make every single goalie seemingly a stud?
Defense. I mean, I think a big part of it is that the Golden Knights play better team defense than if you were going to compare them with Toronto or Edmonton or somebody like that. They play better team defense and they force the shots from out a little farther out, and that helps your goalies, all of them, tremendously. I think also that whoever it is that is in charge of, I don't want to say maybe even the goalie coach, but whoever is scouting goalies for Vegas, maybe the Leafs need to try to steal him away, because they look like they're able to identify guys like Logan Thompson. Who the hell was talking about Logan Thompson? Nobody, right? Aiden Hill, nobody's talking about him, right? So I think whoever it is that is doing that for the Vegas Golden Knights deserves a raise. And hopefully somebody in the Toronto organization, God knows who that might be right now, is maybe reaching out to them after the playoffs and saying, hey, you want to come work for us for a bunch more money, right?
It's funny though. I'm gonna ask you one question then, because when Vegas got Robin Lehner, I said out loud, why would the Leafs not go after Lehner? Lehner's such a solid guy, da da da. And when they acquired Jonathan Quick, I said, oh man, we missed out on Jonathan Quick. I was down in Vegas. I got to watch the Knights and the Flames, and the Flames won 8-2. That's a hockey game, by the way, 8-2 with Jonathan Quick in goal. So I guess they wanted excess goalie insurance, but they did not.
That's basically it. I mean, Jonathan Quick is not there to play. Jonathan Quick is there for support for the most part, right? That's pretty much it. And, I don't think if you'd asked me a year or two ago, do you think the Leafs should go after Robin Lehner, or 3 years ago? I think I would have said no. Just because I think we knew at that time too, there were just some issues. And I don't necessarily know that, is that the guy you want to put in the pipes? And you really want to lean the entire franchise on that guy, right? Look, going forward, I'm happy with Joseph Woll. I don't think there's anybody out there that they can go get that's going to be much better than Woll. And they're going to have to pay them through the nose to get them. And Samsonov, I was pretty happy with him for this year. He says he's willing to take a bit of a haircut to stick around, but what does that mean? Somebody's going to throw 3 years, $4 million at him, and the Leafs can't afford to pay a goalie that right now. Unless they move somebody, they just simply do not have the room to do that. So what the hell are you going to do, right? They're going to have to eventually, and this is, again, drives me crazy about Toronto, and it has since I moved here. Just pick a guy in your system and let him play. Let him play a bunch. Because you going out and picking up the 1B guy or the 2A guy from other teams, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work, right? So play Woll, go find somebody else, not like Jonathan Quick, but somebody of that ilk to be the second guy. Bobrovsky, like how you're not going to get him away now, but like somebody of that nature, right? And just go. Your defense sucks anyway. What are you gonna? I mean, you're gonna turn an $8 million goalie into a $3 million goalie with the defense you have and the way you play the game. So don't go spend $8 million and don't worry about it.
I promise we will get to the Leafs because there's a lot of changes happening over there as we speak. But with the Stanley Cup Finals, looking in, I thought we were going to see Edmonton and Carolina. That's where I thought I was going to go. Edmonton's going to outscore everybody. Carolina's just a solid team. Freddie Anderson's going to exercise his demons. And they still have other goalies in the system as well that they could rotate. Why are Carolina and Edmonton not in the Stanley Cup Finals right now?
I agree with you about Carolina. I mean, I thought if it wasn't going to be Boston, I thought it would be Carolina. I had Vegas going out of the West. I just think they're the best team, right? But you know, for Edmonton, it's the same thing. You went and got Jack Campbell and gave him a big contract on not very much success. When you had a guy that was capable, and I'm not saying Stuart Skinner is Patrick Waugh, but you had a guy who was capable. And instead, you did the Leafs trick of you Vesatoskal him, right? We've got Andrew Raycroft. He played amazingly well. Let's go get Vesatoskal to screw with him. Why? Just play the friggin' guy you have, right? And again, Edmonton's defense is not any good either. Overall, it's not any good. And you're making mediocre goalies bad by playing the way you're playing. And we can see that Edmonton, again, this is all, it underscores so much why the regular season in hockey means almost nothing. You've just got to get into the playoffs because the entire tenor of the game changes. The way the game is called changes. And if you get on a hot streak, Bobrovsky is 50% of every win for Florida right now, right? He's 50%. If he goes cold against Vegas, they'll be lucky to win a game, right? But I don't think Bobrovsky's going to go cold. I think he's dialed in like crazy. I still think if you're going to talk about the two of them facing each other, Vegas wins that series. But I don't know how you bet against Florida right now. I actually, when Florida beat Boston the next week or that night, people were asking me, they're like, oh, if for some reason Florida wins, the Leafs are just going to walk all over Florida. I said, you remember that Florida won the President's Cup last year, right? And then they went out and added Matthew Tkachuk, and they got tougher, and it took them a while to gel, and all of a sudden, Sergei Bobrovsky is amazing. Once they beat Boston, they were 50-50, and when Florida beat Toronto in the first game, I actually went to look to see what the odds were on Florida sweeping that series. And I didn't put any money down, but it was like 150 or 175 to 1. And I thought about it, and people said, oh, you're crazy. That's whatever. Hey, they're a really, really, really good team. And I wouldn't put any money on Vegas winning that series. I think they will beat the Panthers. I think Bobrovsky will cool off to some extent. He'll still be great, but Vegas is going to score on them a little bit, right? And, Edmonton, you've just got to make a decision. You've got to go get better defenders. And that goes for an awful lot of teams who are having goalie trouble. What they really have is a defensive scheme trouble.
So I got to tell you, if I'm betting on the Stanley Cup final, I think Florida's going to win it. I think Bobrovsky's going to keep doing what he's doing. I don't trust the Vegas goalies, and I think they're going to get exposed, and that's where I see it going. I think Vegas, again, come up just short. I think this is Florida's year, having won the President's Trophy before, like you said. And you can't discount the fact Matthew Tkachuk, what he's done to that team. I don't even know. I can't tell you who's the MVP because you take out Tkachuk, they're not here. You take out Bobrovsky, they're not here. So I think it's 1A, 1B. I think they should be co-MVPs, Conn Smythe winners, if they win the cup. I got to ask you then, reflecting on the year overall, you're sitting in management meetings in Carolina, Edmonton, Toronto. Overall, are these seen as a successful year for each of these teams or a failure? From Carolina's end, I think you have to see it as a successful year. I don't know if people expect them to go this far. At that point, when they were getting hot, I thought a lot of people thought they'd go to the Stanley Cup Finals, but I think they have to be fairly happy with their season. Toronto, Edmonton are literally the identical team. They're like constructed almost identically as far as everything, as far as top heavy, bottom, very weak from the defense, goalie standpoint. I think even though the Leafs won a round finally, I think the season is considered a failure, and same thing for Edmonton, in my opinion.
I agree with you about Carolina. I think that, and Rod Brindamore said in the press conference, people are going to view this as a sweep. All four of these games were close. All four of them were very hotly contested. They ran into Bobrovsky. It should not put a damper on how well Carolina played all year. I think what really throws this all out of whack is Boston losing, because I think everybody kind of thought Boston was just going to waltz through. I did. I thought they were going to waltz through. I picked the Leafs to beat Tampa in the first round. I thought it would be a close series, but I thought they would win it. And then I thought they're going to go get annihilated by Boston, right? And when Florida beat Boston, I thought, man, if Florida beat Boston, I told people that night, I almost hope that Florida loses. I'd rather play Boston right now because their goaltending is a mess and they look really tired, right? So it's more about when Boston loses, then it throws it into worse relief because you're like, well, you couldn't even beat Florida in the second round. Yeah, well, Florida beat the number 1, the number 2, and the number 4 seed in the NHL to get to the finals this year. That's only happened 2 other times in history. I think the 80 Islanders and the Canadians in the late 60s did it, right? That's the only times that's happened. So to judge and say it's a failure because you didn't beat them in the second round, or for Edmonton, it's a failure because you lost to a better team, I wouldn't say that. I would say in the case of Toronto and Edmonton, it's a failure because even though you advanced in the playoffs, it exposed the fact that you suck in the playoffs, that you're just not a good playoff team. When Florida beat Toronto, what made me the angriest about it is that for 4 or 5 years, we've been hearing, we're going to build this team on speed. We're going to build it on scoring, right? And then you go in and play Florida, and not only are they 20 times better defensively than you and 25 times tougher than you, they outskated you. They were faster than you were. They were better on the puck. They were better cycling the puck. So what the hell have you been doing for 4 or 5 years? And that's how you get fired. When you get exposed like that and you think, well, here's a team that's built around chippiness for the playoffs and around defense, and yet they still are offensively better than you are with the core 4 or whatever you want to say, right? Edmonton, same thing. You've built it around Draisaitl and McDavid, and what else? I mean, not much, not a whole lot, right? A lot of other guys that would not be scoring very much if they weren't on that team, right? Zach Hyman? So I don't know.